the Resource Scholars online and on-air show, broadcasting intelligent and spirited talk with James Posey.
Okay. So let me add to that. The reason why, I'm gonna say it like the children, there ain't no fun unless the homies can get some, right? This is not about an individual, it's about our community. We are about our community. The same way the Scholar Resource is about our community. James, you've been our community, and the fruit is not in our words. The fruit is in what we've done.
Cool.
So this is about the people. This is about the people. You're right, Posey. I'm in the 1%er. I don't have to do this. I could do all that piece of it, but I haven't had to be in this position for a long time. I've been working to serve the people for 35 years in Northeast Portland. As a youth pastor at Mount Sinai, right? Involved in the whole community, the spiritual community for the last 35 years. I've coached in Cisco Kids and urban sports for 30 years and led Portland Legends. I've been ministering through economics and business for a very, very long time. This is like a lot of you here, a lot of the men here that I've been co-laboring with for 35 years. We've been about our community. And finally, we starting to see some real fruit of that labor in projects like I-5, the empowerment of young men like D'Angelo Monin, and all these other young women that we are empowering, men and women that we are empowering of color, that actually can speak intelligently to all these issues because they understand where it's come. What the Coalition of Black Men are doing, right? And so many other people out here, the Soul District, fighting for the soul of our people.
Yeah.
In the displacement of the I-5, that Williams Quarter had a whole group of nightclubs and various places. I remember Geneva's. Y'all probably don't want to mention Geneva's. Back in the day, I used to play out there on that, and they had bands, and I don't even want to go back there no more because it was. But my whole idea is that it was fun, and I'm not seeing a lot of these places like that. But I want to just say, I want to take that statistic you just gave, Jeff. 25 of the largest companies were construction companies. Wouldn't it be interesting to go back and connect the dots on those 25 large companies to see what they actually support under their umbrella, i.e. the museums, i.e. the jazz festivals, i.e. all the surrogate operations they operate because they have the discretion to use resources to make things happen culturally and from an entertainment perspective. When we see the Waterfront Jazz and Blues Festival, the sponsors of that are people who have money. And it would be interesting to find out to what degree the Hoffmans of the world, the Skanskas, and all of them taking those corporate dollars and really supporting the entertainment elements of what they want to see in this community. So I don't know if we ever think about it in that way, but that's how much of the culture of white people come together, because they have the wherewithal, the financial wherewithal to express where they want to be, how they want to entertain themselves, what their culture is going to be like. And we've lost a lot of that because we don't have a Raimore, many Raimores or any large companies that can really umbrella the cultural entertainment capacity that we should as a community. I don't know if you all agree with that or not.
I agree. I think it's even bigger than that, James. I think that, you talked about going to Geneva. The only reason you can go in Geneva is you had to have a little change in your pocket to be able to pay the cover charge and to be able to buy a drink or two, right? And without no change in your pocket, so all these entertainment, our people have lost the fact that without economics, you don't have entertainment. Economic drives all of this. You have to have the money to bring the people here and sponsor them. Paul used to bring those bands in because Paul had enough money to bring them in. And then he would hope to create an environment for people to come in and come see those people where he can make his money back, right? but you got to have income and economics to do any of that.
There's a lot of people that had to go through a lot of things to be able to survive through Jim Crow, through segregation, through all the oppressive systems and policies. There's nothing like the time we stand in now to where equity's in the forefront, social and economic justice is in the forefront.
I could well against, some of the things that have happened to me from a racist standpoint, but at the end of the day, Black people in America, we can take the chains off our ankles ourselves, physically, literally, and psychologically. And the psychological piece is the one that we really got to work on.
I think I got on the NAACP because James Posey talked to me. He was the economic development chair. And I came in as the education chair because that's what I do. So I left the NAACP. I kept thinking, I can't do this anymore, right? None of these issues are changing. As a matter of fact, they're getting worse because there's so few of us, we're always working on our one little piece. We don't put the whole puzzle together. It was James again that came to me and said, Noni, we got to find a new leader. Let's get strategic and let's find somebody that can rebuild our community and that can help fight for Black folks. And I know that economic development and education, we have to work together. He was so passionate about what was happening, it made me stand up. He will fight for truth. He'll go down to the commissioner's office, he'll go down to City Hall, he'll get in people's faces. It makes people uncomfortable. It may not look the way some people think it should. However, it gets things done and it brings awareness of what's going on. You look at gentrification and you're like, it's moving people, but it's really about money. All money ain't good money. So you're not gonna make me fight against my community. You're not gonna use me as a pawn in my community.
James has never shied away from challenging these systems of oppression that like to divide and conquer. He's been one to expose many in our community around being gatekeepers. He uses a term called the only one syndrome, where you are the one chosen Black person to represent the whole Black community. Those folks shoplift the process for their own selfish economic gains. And James has been able to expose those people, not in a disrespectful way, but in a way to say that this is not okay for our community. And if you're not willing to make sacrifices like many elders do, then you need to get out the way so that the next generation can be handed the baton to really carry those outcomes that our Black community needs so desperately forward.
White supremacy says, I'm gonna lift you guys up. You guys have the voice now, you guys have the power, and don't listen to them, right? And it pits us against each other. It's an art of war, and it's important that we can come together, not only across sectors, public and private, but generational. Some of us have been in this fight for 50 years, and all of these things have been done before. And unless we come to the table to listen to each other about those stories and about that history and how it was done, oh my goodness, we are destined to fail if we don't plan together.
And Tony and D'Angelo, I just want to know about, what is it about you all that makes you all want to do this for the right reasons? And what is it about your Black experience that really gets you motivated to be where you're trying to do this? Why don't y'all just take the money and run? Why don't you just go ahead and get wealth and stuff it in your pocket and hell, run off to Florida or, wherever the hell people go with all their money? Why don't you just get you a rocket ship and go on up in it with like Bezos or something? What is it about your culture that makes you want to do this stuff? Because most people wouldn't do this. Most people would go a different way.
I'll start this one off. So for me personally, I'm a third generation Portlander. My mother and my father were born and raised here. My grandmother and my grandfather moved here. And I've been here for 30 years, been here my whole life. I've always seen the Black experience in Northeast Portland. It's where I grew up in. My family's been very involved in the city, whether it be, through various workforce opportunities, schooling, and NAACP, what have you. When I was 12 years old, we were actually displaced out of our home on 13th and Killingsworth. And so 12 years later, when I was 24 years old, I made it back to the neighborhood. And now I'm in a place where I grew up at, where people are looking at me like I don't belong. And I understand that the way that happened is, as Jeff said earlier, with, blight and redlining and how they've kind of marked the city and marginalized us. But I also understand that without an understanding of real economics and real wealth, we can't sustain or even own our neighborhoods. And like I said earlier, it kind of forces us to play this game where we're always at the mercy of white benevolence. And so we either have to rent our own home or rent someone else's home or move into a low-income housing trap, which at that point you become the equity of somebody else. So you as a Black person are never allowed to actually have and build your own equity. And that's not a sustainable lifestyle for anybody. If anything, it perpetuates the same issues and the same trauma that we've had done to us historically. So my passion for this comes based on the fact that not only have I seen it, not only was it done to me, but I've seen it done historically. And I understand the historical connotations on how we got here, which a lot of younger Black people don't understand. So we have to bring truth to that. And by being in the forefront of it and being able to do it and show people, they can understand the truth of how we got here and then make a decision to do something different.
Cool.
Okay.
Hey.
So let me add to that. The reason why, I'm gonna say it like the children, there ain't no fun unless the homies can get some, right? This is not about an individual, it's about our community. We are about our community. The same way the Scholar Resource is about our community. James, you've been our community, and the fruit is not in our words. The fruit is in what we've done.
Cool.
So this is about the people. This is about the people. You're right, Posey. I'm in the 1%er. I don't have to do this. I could do all that piece of it, but I haven't had to be in this position for a long time. I've been working to serve the people for 35 years in Northeast Portland. As a youth pastor at Mount Sinai, right? Involved in the whole community, the spiritual community for the last 35 years. I've coached in Cisco Kids and urban sports for 30 years and led Portland Legends. I've been ministering through economics and business for a very, very long time. This is like a lot of you here, a lot of the men here that I've been co-laboring with for 35 years. We've been about our community. And finally, we starting to see some real fruit of that labor in projects like I-5, the empowerment of young men like D'Angelo Monin, and all these other young women that we are empowering, men and women that we are empowering of color that actually can speak intelligently to all these issues because they understand where it's come. What the Coalition of Black Men are doing, right? And so many other people out here, the Soul District, fighting for the soul of our people.
God has given me the opportunity to be here, period. So I've always been told I got to give to somebody else. My mother didn't say that in my ear. That's been God whispering in my ear ever since I was 8 damn years old. So I've been on fire since I was a boy for my people, period. That's what it's about.
Log on to resourcescholarshow.com.
The fight came that after slavery ended, we had jobs, which is what you mentioned earlier, that we were starting to get it together because we had skills. It was the white man that didn't have any skills because we're the ones who had been forced to work. The black man had. And so part of that destruction, doing all that Jim Crow and everything, was fighting against the brothers who were trying to be in business and who were trying to work.
So, there's some people out there getting upset whenever we say black labor built this country. But we're not making anything up, guys. These are facts. And we're about to present you with the historical receipts. In case you missed it, this is what we mean when we say, we built this. Here's a quick history lesson for y'all. The first slaves were brought to the U.S. in 1619. Their job was simple, to make white settlers money. Slaves grew tobacco, rice, and indigo on the plantations of the southern coast. Now fast forward to the late 18th century, cotton was king, and the U.S. was making stacks of cash on it, especially with all that free labor. Over 600 million, or just about half of the country's economic activity in 1836 came directly or indirectly from cotton. Cotton-producing slaves were just 6% of the population, but created almost half of 1 year's economic activity. We spoke with Professor Edward Baptist, the author of The Half Has Never Been Told.
That 6% figure is specifically the enslaved Africans and African Americans who were in the cotton producing regions. We're looking at like South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana.
Talk about being critical to a nation's economy.
I guess you can imagine some sort of science fiction world where this didn't happen, but this is what did happen. Slave labor built the U.S.
And their contributions weren't limited to the South. A little bit north in D.C., there's the White House. We built that.
I wake up every morning in a house that was built by slaves.
If you doubt our forever First Lady's words, the White House Historical Association spells it out pretty plainly. Planners turned to African Americans, both enslaved and free, to provide the bulk of the labor that built the White House, the United States Capitol, and other early government buildings. This country's financial center, we built that too. Wall Street earned its name because enslaved Africans built a wall to protect Dutch settlers from raids in 1653. This wall ran from river to river. Slaves built the roads, the docks, and most of the big-time buildings in the area that would soon become New York City. And railroads, slaves did that. North America's 4 major rail networks all own lines that were built and operated with slave labor. Before the Civil War, nearly every rail line east of the Mississippi River and south of the Mason-Dixon line was constructed or run at least partly by slaves. You know what else we built? What about that great American music genre? Yes, rock and roll. We built that too. And blues, and jazz, and hip hop, and pop. America's favorite snack food, that was a black guy behind the potato chip. The ironing board, a sister. The traffic light, yep, he was black. The super soaker, that was a dude named Lonnie. He's black too. And the person who invented the technology responsible for the caller ID and call waiting, her name is Dr. Shirley Jackson. And yes, she's black. Clearly, there isn't enough time to go through all the ways black people have built this country. They're vast. Don't get it twisted. Native American and many immigrant communities have made tremendous contributions to the infrastructure, identity, and imagination of the U.S. as well. So when we say we built this country, we actually mean it.
Log on to resourcescholarshow.com.
And that fight between the black man and the white man about the construction business has continued down to today, which is why you can go into a city like Cincinnati and in Philadelphia, where the black population is over 50 or 60%, and the white contractors own 99% of all of the jobs in the city, and that's nationwide. And they've kept us out of it. They've kept us out of the unions. This is what that was, but it was the black man who used to have all of the skills for building. We were the contractors, our people.
Become a member and add to the Resource Scholars social media community.
In the case of the Rose Quarter project, this is a unique opportunity for us here in the Portland area, specifically for the Black community. So why is it unique? It's unique because this is a significantly large project. The agency, the owner, ODOT, has indicated that the project is a Black project for which opportunities, economic opportunities through the DBE program, they will focus on the Black community. The other thing is that when they created the specification, so what a specification is, it's essentially telling the contracting community that bids on the work, what should be the roadmap for how they create opportunities for DBEs and how are they going to use the workforce. And so in that specification, they said, we want, innovations in contracting and we want a diverse workforce. But the other thing that they did was they selected a great team. So they selected a joint venture in association with Raimore, which is the largest Black contractor, one of the largest in the state of Oregon. And another thing that's important about that is that on that team, they have selected a diversity director with a proven track record of creating opportunities for firms of color and Black firms. And that's what they did. And the Black community, we need to make sure that Black contractors pay attention and bid on this work.
Oh, that's very good. I hasten to mention that this one Black contractor, this Raimore company, is a company that is working on the Division Street project right now on Southeast. And if anybody has any doubt about their ability to include people of color and specifically Black people, they should drive that Division Street corridor and test that out for themselves.
Log on to resourcescholarshow.com.
So in my conversation with people that I talk to in regards to the I-5 project, I talk very little about the project itself. I talk about the benefits, of course, but I talk about the history of the corridor. So I talk about the original construction of the I-5 highway and how it displaced people. I talk about Emmanuel Hospital. I talk about Vanport. I talk about the history of the actual location. And so when people understand the history of the location, they understand why when you say something like, oh, we're bridging the albino community back is important. But because they understand what the community was like before the displacement, then they're able to see the lies and the deceit and the narrative that's being placed now.
I found Raimore, I didn't even realize I was lost, but I was. 18 years old, I worked for a big contractor. I ended up falling out of love with construction because it just wasn't the environment for me. Raimore has brought every single thing that was deep down in me out of me, from just the drive, the knowledge, the ability that I had. I realized that I was coasting through life before this. I wasn't really achieving what I could achieve. For me personally, the Rose Quarter Project hits home because I was born right at Emmanuel Hospital. I grew up in that neighborhood. I've seen the changes it's gone through. I've seen what our people have gone through in that neighborhood. It's all about the intention. If we are intentional, if ODOT is intentional, we can make it to where minorities that were displaced can get an opportunity on the project. You gotta be intentional about who you hire, what subs you work with. That's the only way you're going to have change.
Of the top 50 privately held companies in the state of Oregon, 25 of them are construction companies who do a collectively of almost $20 billion a year in annual revenue. So when you start looking at, again, of the privately held companies in the state, 25 of them are construction companies. Construction and development has a construction component. And you help them see this industry as a first choice. We have bought into lies when all the carpenters and the cement masons, electricians, and all these people in these trades under these living wage jobs are white people. These people don't have to go to school and go into all this debt. Right, going to all this debt. They're coming in these trades and they're making anywhere from $80,000 to $125,000 a year.
When I was younger, I always used to take my remote control cars apart, try to build them back together. Benson High School had a tech show, and you got to see all the different courses that they have there. I basically planned from a younger age to go there. I was able to get in, majored in electrical. I loved it. 2008, graduated, and I got a job with an electric company right when the economy crashed. So they ended up laying me off. My dad was the foreman for a construction company. I started to do paving with them and also starting to drive. Working with my dad, he's such a nice person. He would just do things a lot of times himself. I'm a brat. So I had to go somewhere else to grow and mature properly, really. Raimore gave me an apprenticeship of being a manager. Been doing that now for just about a year and a half. I mean, it's been fun. It's been a lot to learn. I try to be a sponge for every single situation that I'm in. The more experience you have, the more valuable you are. So when I'm out, my salary should be around $80,000, if not more. I tell all my friends, try to offer them opportunities to come and work with me because I was given that opportunity to grow and to make a really, really good living. If you're in management, you have to be a leader. How can I motivate these guys and help these guys to be better? And being able to look at yourself and say, okay, I have to be more humble and willing to take direction. I'm thankful for the people for being patient with me to help me to learn and to grow in these areas. They're always giving me this perspective of when you're doing your own thing, whether it's with your dad's company or if it's somewhere else, you need to be prepared to understand these certain aspects of whatever we're learning. So they're always giving me the idea that I have options and I have choices that I can make. Bailey's Construction, my dad's company, has been around for about 13 years. This is one of the first trucks that he had. Raimore was very, very helpful to help us grow. Being a sub there with them and being able to do the trucking, it's something that's such a great opportunity. Having our own business is something that feels pretty amazing to be able to be successful in this field, especially in Portland, Oregon, as an African-American owned company. I know I have this opportunity to be successful here, and there's a lot of people who are pushing and helping us be successful. So I got some big shoes to fill, just my goal to try to make them proud.
The one thing that I love about working for them, I'm sorry, if one of us fails, we all fail, and if one of us falls, we're a village and we pick that person up and we walk with them and we make sure that they have everything that they need and the skills so that they can be successful. My paycheck is the bonus. And I come here because of the people. We're a body, we're a whole. What's embodied in the culture of this company, like I feel very fortunate and blessed to work here. Yeah. For my kids to see, a person of color to be this successful, my son is just in awe. My daughter's like, I can't believe that you work for a Black-owned construction company and you guys are doing all of these great things, Mom. I can drive down the street and say, hey, we worked at the convention center, or hey, we're doing this work on Division. I'm proud of that. Yeah. Woo.
There's a lot of people that had to go through a lot of things to be able to survive through Jim Crow, through segregation, through all the oppressive systems and policies. There's nothing like the time we stand in now to where equity's in the forefront, social and economic justice in the forefront.
Become a member and add to the Resource Scholars social media community. Log on to resourcescholarshow.com.
I live down in the Elliott Neighborhood Association, and we got this big thing about the I-5 corridor and that expansion and so forth. And the Elliott Neighborhood Association filed a lawsuit in accordance with or in conjunction with one of these environmental groups. And I live down there, and I went to one of their meetings, and I was outraged because you only got about 5 Black people in that neighborhood association. And I just told them I didn't think they were representing me. I mean, they go out and do a lawsuit and everything, but no one contacted me about, this lawsuit. And of course, it's the environmentalists and people who are trying to talk about, air and all that other stuff. And I wanted to express to them, Black people just trying to live. They just trying. I know we want to breathe good air, but for many, many years, they never contacted us. We're out here to, I'm down the street from Dawson Park. You have all those brothers down there doing their thing and this and that. Mm-hmm. So what is your thought about how white people in this community just really disrespect us and want to say things in our name, all that gentrification stuff? Tell me what's on your mind about that stuff, Paul.
I think that the lack of communication, everything starts with communication with me. Yeah. I'm a firm believer that if we don't talk about things and we don't engage each other, we're never going to get to where we want to be, not one side or the other. Because at the end of the day, we're all living in this bowl together, and we have to find a way to reach out, listen to the other party's concerns, and try to come to some kind of happy medium. But when people move into the community, and you mentioned earlier, it's difficult to run from your DNA. And the people that have moved into the community have never felt the need to engage African American people. They just go on their way. That's how I feel about it. This is what I see. I should never feel uncomfortable walking up Williams Avenue. Mm-hmm. How can that possibly be? So I think engagement is the key. And there's got to be some people that reach out to each other. And if that's not done, we're going to just keep spinning the wheel. We're going to, because if you don't know, I don't feel included in your plans if I'm not invited to help with the plan. You know what I mean? And so your feelings they're real. They're justified the way that you feel. That's how that's what I think.
Well, Paul, I went into that meeting, these white people push my buttons, man. My wife told me, boy, what's wrong with you? Because I told them there were a bunch of white supremacists in there. Everything got to be their way or the highway. I said, I respect your point of view. Why can't you incorporate my point of view in there? Especially if you're in here trying to take over my dadgum community. I've been here for 40 years. You're going to come in here and about a hot minute going to tell me, you're going to do all this environmental stuff and we don't need to get no jobs here. This is a destination, so forth. It's crazy. I mean, I'm hearing exactly what you're saying. Communication is key. They could have done a survey. They should have, if I were them and I was smart, I would have took a look in who's in this community, who's been the longest, the people you want to talk to first, because they weathered the storm in this joint. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't do none of that.
I agree with you. This is the pattern, though. This is a pattern that has been for as long as this place has been a country. We don't need to ask any questions. We just come and do what we want to do.
Become a member and add to the Resource Scholars social media community. Log on to resourcesscholarshow.com.